Hey guys, welcome back to Black Mirage Studios, and this is the last episode of a beginner game developer guide series. Now, in the previous episodes, we talked a lot about game development. We talked what a game is, and we talked what is programming, how to do programming in a game engine, and then we talked about 3D, level designing, game design documents, UI UX designing. So we talked a lot about game development, and now is the final episode. So I wanted to take all of that and put it into one place and give you guys a proper idea of what the game design workflow is and how you can start your game and what are the steps that you should take and how you can start making your own game. So basically, we can go to our first episode. In the first episode, we talked what a game is, which is we talked a game is basically a objective uh, idea that your player, your character, whatever you have in your game has one specific goal that he or she or it needs to achieve. And basically, your game is him or that your character get into that objective, get into that goal, and the whole game is the story, how he gets there, what he has to do to get there, right? That is what a game is. So on that note, you can start with your idea, which is the first step of a game design workflow. So first, with that idea, you need to design the concept of your own game. So in our game, basically the idea is these teenagers who are lost in these woods, and our character looking for his friends, and his end goal is basically to rescue his friends. And like that, you should have your own idea of what your game is, and when you have that, you can start working on it and developing on it. And you can design the concept. Okay, this happens, and you can write a rough script, not the whole script of course, but a rough idea, the concept of what your game is. And then you can go to a game design document. In last episode, we talked what a game design document is. So just to give you an idea again, and if you haven't watched the video, a game design document is basically a blueprint of your game. And when you are designing your game design document, you will be writing your whole game without even touching a computer. Well, if you're typing, that's another story. But basically, I prefer physical methods like writing physically. So basically, we'll be writing the concept. Okay, what my game name is, what is the concept, and then what are the mechanics I have in our game, what our character has to do, especially what are the unique things I have in my game that other games doesn't have, what are the puzzles, what are the literally features, everything, right? In the game design document, you write your whole game. That is the idea. Because the reason is when you go into production after writing the GDD, you will be saved from lots of problems if you have a game design document. If you want more details on that, watch our other video, previous one before that. Now, after this, you have three important phases of your game design workflow. Well, the first phase is pre-production, then production, and post-production. Well, as the name sounds, pre-production is basically everything that you do before you start working on the actual game. And production is you are working on the actual game, like programming 3D stuff, making 3D stuff, and pre-production is like writing the game, like making prototypes, testing it out a bit, like deciding tools. All those stuff is pre-production, then production, and then at last post-production, which includes like polishing the game, testing, marketing, all those stuff, right? So let's go one by one. And this whole workflow is on these three stages. So first, in pre-production, as the developer, a sole developer, or as a team, well, you should start writing the core idea of your game. It's not just the concept, it's the more complicated version of the concept, I would say, not the full script as well. And well, you finalize on that, and if you want, you can make a prototype, which is the best case scenario, because from the prototype there are several important things that you can get, like getting a publisher, getting investor for your game. And it is a really good idea if you can make a prototype of your game before you get into full production. And in this pre-production phase also, you can choose your tools, which we talked about previously, but let me go through them again. Like, you need several tools when it comes to production. So in pre-production, you have to choose what tools are you going to use. Like for example, you have a programming part, right? So you have to use the tool that you are going to use for programming. What is your game engine, right? So most people use Unreal or Unity, and other options are like Godot. And just do a small research about game engines, and you will find out the best engine for your game. Unreal Engine is like pretty good 3D software. It is very quality. So if you're making a high quality double A, triple A level game, Unreal Engine is the way to go. And Unity is much more. I'm not saying Unity is not quality. It's going to start a war. Unity is a really good engine, but it is much more easier and well light to run than Unreal. Unreal is a heavy software. So that is the programming part. And then when it comes to 3D character designing, you can use softwares like Blender, Maya, 3D Max. Well, Blender is free. Blender is the best option that you have, and Maya or 3D Max, all those softwares are paid. But Blender is a really good software when it comes to 3D, and it has so many options. Just if you haven't try out, you will love Blender. Just get a good tutorial series. Blender Guru, I think his name is. He has a good donut series, and you will love it. So learn Blender. And other than the main two softwares like Blender and Unreal, you need like mini softwares for small tasks like, well, Substance Painter, for example. Substance Painter is a texture painting software. Basically, you will be, well, if you have a character or object, you have to paint them, right? You have to add textures to it. So Substance Painter is a really good, easy software that you can use with Blender to help out with textures. And Photoshop is also another software that you will have to use, because like Substance Paint is basically applying those textures to your model, right? But in Photoshop, you have to edit those textures. Like let's say you need a very custom texture. Like for example, in our game we have a temple, and in the temple we have like walls, right? In those walls there are specific arts like Buddhist arts. So we can create them in Substance Painter, right? So we have to create them in Photoshop, we have to edit them in Photoshop, and we bring them into Substance Painter, and we add those textures to our models that we created in Blender through Substance Painter. Well, if you are new, especially, that might be very confusing. Basically, you create an image in Photoshop, you create a model in Blender, and you connect those two in Substance Painter. That is the rough idea. So that is the actual work flow of modeling. We will come to that in a bit. It's still pre-production. I'm getting ahead of myself. So you have to decide those tools, right? So you need a programming tool, an engine. You need a 3D tool. You need the texture tools like Substance and Photoshop. Other than that, I really can't think. Well, you will still have to use like, well, audio for like softwares like FL Studio, Audacity. I don't really have much idea about audio because we have separate audio engineer for this stuff. So again, you have to do your own research because everything depends on the game that you are making. So after you decide your game, we can go to production. So to talk about production, you need to understand how a game works, right? I did cover this in our programming video, but I will go through it again. So basically, the game engine is the software that you are make your game on. So if you choose Unity or Unreal, those are the softwares that your game is being built on. So your game is inside that software, right? So other tools are just supporting tools. Like, okay, so let's take a game engine, right? How exactly a game works in a game engine. So game engine is basically a software where you can give commands to specific models. So let's say you have a 3D model of a box. So you can add that box to your game engine and you can try to program so you can move it. So basically that is the idea. So that's how your whole game is made, right? You add 3D models into your game and you program to work them in the way you want. So that is how your game is being made. So before we go into that, we need other softwares to make those assets. So we make assets using softwares like Blender, Substance, and Photoshop, and you add them inside the game engine, and that is where you start programming your game, and that way you will get a full game. So that is basically the production timeline. You make stuff, you add them in the game engine, and you program them. So that is the whole production time period. So basically, when it comes to a huge game, like let's say like a double A game, so the production timeline is like 2 years. So all those 2 years, what the developers will do is create assets, create characters, create like boxes, shares, tables, and add them in the engine and build up their world, their map. And then they program that, they add characters into it, they program how they work, and then they add the objectives, and our characters has to go through this gameplay, and they design this gameplay, and they finish off the production timeline, production period. After production is done, it will be basically testing how the game works. Are there any bugs? They also, like, there are several phases of testing, like alpha testing, beta testing, and all the stuff. And after testing and stuff, they can start pushing the game trailers, start marketing, and all those stuff, which is post-production. So that is basically the game development workflow. So again, I can't cover everything, like how small stuff works, like how the engine and blender works, like how substance and blender works. So you have to research about them, you had to find more videos about them. I also did some videos about programming and stuff. So this is just a video for you guys to give a rough idea of how the workflow works. So just to summarize everything, you have 3 phases: pre-production, production, and post-production. And in pre-production, you write your game, everything writing. You design, you plan out everything, just a plan. In the production, you take stuff from your script, like, okay, I have this character, I have this object, I have a gun in our player. So you make all those stuff in Blender, you add them in Unreal or in Unity, and you program them in the way you want, and you have a game. So that is the idea. And on that note, we can finally finish our beginner game developer guide series. And congratulations, you are not a beginner anymore. Well, still have a lot to learn, both you and me. And like I said, I'm also fairly comparatively new to game development, like 2 years. So yeah, it has been an interesting journey, and I hope you will also have an interesting journey in game development. And this is not the end of game development. There is a lot more to talk about, and definitely we will be. This is just the end of the beginner game developer guide series. And yeah, we will be doing much more interesting stuff in the future. So stay tuned for that, guys. Please subscribe, leave a like, and share the video if you find this interesting. And yeah, see you on the next one. Bye.